When you think of World War I, what comes to mind? Trenches, soldiers, the sound of artillery, right? But here's the thing. This war wasn't only fought on the battlefield. It was also a war of money. A silent war fought in gold reserves, in banks, in bond markets. While soldiers struggled on the front lines, governments and bankers were fighting with their money. And the choices they made back then didn't just decide who would win or lose. They shaped the economic system we live in today. If in your mind, war is only about governments, armies, and generals, you're missing a small but crucial detail. Because World War I showed the world something new. Money is also a weapon, and one of the deadliest ever invented. 1914. A world ready to explode. In 1914, Europe was truly a powder keg. Nations held grudges, alliances were being formed, and the fight for colonies was heating up. But beneath all that talk of honor, pride, and empire lay a harsh truth. To sustain such a massive war required an extraordinary amount of money. And at that moment, leaders weren't just entering a war, they were entering debt. While armies marched to the front, civilians marched into a future burdened with debt. At first, everyone thought the war would end quickly. Sell some gold, collect some donations, it'll be over by Christmas. But the war began burning through money faster than anyone imagined. The economy was being consumed at an unprecedented speed. The gold standard, breaking the chain. At that time, Europe's monetary system still relied on the gold standard. That meant if you had paper money, you could exchange it for gold anytime you wanted. This system provided confidence, but it also chained governments. Because gold was limited, you couldn't print money endlessly. But the war drained gold reserves rapidly. Britain, France, Germany, all of them ran out of gold in no time. Daily expenses reached millions. Eventually, governments gave in. The gold standard was suspended. From that moment, the value of money no longer depended on gold, only on faith in the state. This quiet, gradual shift was the birth of modern finance. From then on, money ceased to be a tangible asset. It became a belief system. Germany, the pyramid of hope and debt. Germany, cut off by naval blockades, had no access to the outside world. Its only option was to borrow from its own people. Invest for the fatherland, they said, selling war bonds to citizens. Posters everywhere promised repayment after victory. But that victory never came. When the war ended, those bonds turned into worthless paper. Millions lost their life savings. This collective frustration would later fuel anger and extremism in Germany. Britain, the power of money. Britain held a great advantage. London was the world's financial center. The pound sterling was stable and trusted, the currency of global trade. But as war costs rose, the British government turned to the United States. America hadn't entered the war yet, but its banks had already smelled opportunity. J.P. Morgan and Company became the financial hero of Britain and France. Billions of dollars in loans, weapon deals, and food supplies were arranged. By 1917, when America officially joined the war, Wall Street was already financing it. And this wasn't just money, it was power. From that point on, America became the world's top creditor. Thus began the American century. One not with gunpowder, but with ink. France and Russia. Different ends, same problem. France also financed the war through both internal and external borrowing. It sold bonds to its citizens, but ultimately relied heavily on American money. This post-war dependence opened the door to a new financial habit. Meanwhile, in Russia, things were much worse. The country was vast but economically fragile. Gold reserves looked fine on paper, but the system was dysfunctional. As the war dragged on, inflation soared and the ruble collapsed. By 1917, the empire had crumbled completely. The revolution wasn't just born of ideas. It was born of bankruptcy. The real cost of war. When the war ended, the world wasn't just broken. It was bankrupt. The Allies had spent $140 billion. The Central Powers, $60 billion. Unthinkable sums for that era. The gold system was gone. Inflation skyrocketed. Currencies lost their value. In Germany, buying a single loaf of bread required billions of marks. Savers went broke. The wealthy moved their assets abroad. And one bitter truth remained. In a financial war, the first to suffer are always the ordinary people. The New Order, World War I, taught governments a dangerous lesson. You can run an economy detached from reality. If there's no gold, print paper. Call debt a patriotic duty, and the people will trust you. This trick worked so well it was never abandoned. From the Great Depression of 1929 to the 2008 crisis, the same pattern repeated. Government said it's only temporary, and people believed, until their money was worth nothing. A changing world. When the guns fell silent in 1918, not only the trenches but entire economies were in ruin. The U.S. had become the richest and most powerful creditor nation. Europe was drowning in debt. Britain owed $4 billion to the U.S. France owed $3 billion. These debts stripped Europe of its financial independence. America had become the new economic superpower, and it had won not with soldiers, but with debt. The new war of debt. But the story didn't end there, because when war is financed by debt, peace is too. Britain and France, trying to honor their war bond promises to their own citizens, turned to Germany for compensation. The Treaty of Versailles imposed a crushing debt of 132 billion gold marks on Germany. But Germany couldn't pay. Each attempt made its economy worse. By 1923, hyperinflation exploded. People lined up with bags of cash just to buy bread. That resentment would one day ignite history's darkest chapters. Britain's mistake. In 1925, Britain tried to regain its old prestige by returning to the gold standard. But restoring a post-war economy to pre-war conditions was like trying to fix a bone before it healed. The result? Deflation, unemployment, unrest. Even today, that decision is considered one of the greatest economic blunders in modern history. America. The new center. While the U.S. was swimming in money, it flooded Europe with loans. Germany borrowed to pay reparations. Britain and France used that money to repay the U.S. There is plenty of cash, but no real innovation. And when the system collapsed in 1929, it fell like a line of dominoes, shaking the entire world. The global economy had never been so connected, and never so fragile. The real lesson World War I was a turning point in history. Governments learned something powerful. Propaganda could turn debt into courage. They could print as much money as they wanted and persuade people to believe it was for the nation. But the outcome never changed. The losers were always the same. The people, the small investors, the ordinary workers. A warning for today. Today, when central banks say inflation is temporary, or governments claim we're just raising the debt ceiling a bit, remember 1914, they said the same things back then. And the people believed, until they were left with nothing. True wealth isn't in numbers. True wealth lies in knowledge, awareness, and independent thought. Final words. History never repeats exactly, but it always rhymes. The financial plot written in 1914 still continues. The characters have changed, but the story remains the same, and if you're not aware, you'll lose everything in the same old script. Never forget, money has value not because it's real, but because you believe it is. And when that belief fades, the system collapses.